of Lord Mayor, page 3077. Year is 1952. The chapter title is Trip to the West. Lud Dimpfel, one of Ivy's Sufis from San Francisco, collected $4,500 and flew to Myrtle Beach with a check for Baba's trip. He arrived on the 16th and handed the amount to Baba. Ivy tried to persuade Baba to travel to Los Angeles by plane, but Baba preferred going by car. Ivy's husband, James Terry Deuce, also arrived on 16 May and met Baba at 9 a.m. Terry was a senior executive with the Aramco oil company in Arabia and a seasoned world traveler. So Baba asked him to plan their route to the West Coast. A quick straight route for the men Mondali, who were to go ahead, and a more casual, scenic route for himself and the women. Baba also told him, I love you dearly. I want you to understand so that you may not be confused. You may think it has come about by chance, but your coming was destined. God alone is real. He does everything for everyone. We cannot escape his will. He loves us, and the goal of life is to love him, know him in absolute honesty and avoiding all temptations, be united with him. Baba continued, my work now is to be universal. The time is approaching when there will be a great upheaval, both material and spiritual. The whole world is to be topsy-turvy. There will be a climax. From November, my fiery life will take the greatest part in this upheaval. So my program, by God's will, is that I go to California safely on the 20th and then come back and stay here for 1 month. I will not see anyone then. I will be free to chalk out the plan for this center, which I want, by God's grace, to be a universal center. Then I leave for England and Europe by July end and leave for India in November. I will return here in July 1953 to stay for 1 year to work out the center on the biggest scale. I know you can help me in that, and I would like you to work with me in constructing and planning 4 centers, which I want in this one universal center. So I would like you to decide and let me know if you would help me in this work. I do not know what my commitments are or will be, but I will do what I can, Terry promised. That means try, and God will help you do that. I know what you want in life, and maybe something bigger may come to you from God. It is to be a huge universal center, and you can help. I will do all I can. What plans or ideas do you have? Terry asked. Baba replied in detail. I will come back on June 15 and stay for 1 month and see no one. I will see every inch of this place and chalk out the 4 centers within one, representing service, renunciation, devotion, and worldly life with love for God. In the service aspect will be a hospital, leper asylum, and other such things. I have an estimate that it will cost for construction and maintenance, $10 million. I am the poorest of the poor and the richest of the rich. I don't touch money since my silence. But if this is to be done honestly for humanity, it will need $10 million, and God will give it to me. That is why I said I will not need monetary help from you. This is going to be so big that someone like you should manage it as I want. I will need your help for plans and construction. So I said, 1 year you will have to stay here and help. I have been very plain and frank with you as one of my own men. So you decide. But foremost, I would like you to go to Arabia as soon as possible, and from July 1953, help me for 1 year in my plans. And there's a footnote here. Being an experienced businessman, Baba wanted Terry Deuce's help in the development of the Myrtle Beach Center. But these ideas did not manifest into actuality. A few of Ivy's Sufi murids from New York had come to Myrtle Beach for the open house darshan, to be held in the barn the following day, 17 May. They also saw Baba on the afternoon of the 16th. Stella Dufresne asked Baba to protect her only son, 19, who was a sailor fighting in the Korean War. Baba directed Mayurji to tear off a small corner of the pad he was using to take notes of the interviews. Baba folded it into a small wad, held it in his hands, and after concentrating on it for a moment, handed it to Stella and stated, "Have him wear this at all times for exactly 1 year." And Baba added, "Love me more if you can, and God will grant you everything that is good." An African American murid named Edward James was a well read intellectual. Baba asked him, "Tell me in exactly 5 words what you have learned from all these books." The young man looked at Baba, not knowing what to say. Baba answered for him, "I have not learned anything." 5 words, isn't that so? To Mrs. Zaruhi Bajejian, Baba stated, "The language of love is of the heart. The lover need not speak, and the beloved need not hear, and yet both know each other. So rest assured, I know all you want to say, and tell you, do not be afraid." Edith W. Bradbury of New York City met Baba at 3:05 p.m. that day, and after her, a Professor de Grey. Baba told him, "All understanding is not knowing. Everything that can be understood is not God. I have said repeatedly all along, since ages, I have been saying, the only thing worth living for and dying for is God. In any form, you can love him. Through any gesture, you can love him. Love his impersonal or personal aspect. Love Baba or love God within you. It is the same. But the feeling of love must be from within. So now that you have seen Baba, God will make you love him. My love will guide you. So now make a firm resolve. Love God. Love Baba. A woman named Otilia de Tejera had flown to Myrtle Beach from Panama to meet Baba. She had heard of him from Delia de Leon in 1948. Baba met with her at 4 p.m. on the 16th and instructed her to shake hands with every one of her group in Panama from him. Two other women who saw Baba were Maddie Perrone and Muriel Houston, who was helping on the center during Baba's visit. Muriel asked Baba, "What do you want me to do?" Baba said, "Attend to all your worldly duties as now, but with this difference, that you dedicate your inner life to loving God. You must not give up anything, but know within you that only God is real." Previously in November 1938, Consuelo Cedas had come to Baba in India, but she had also paid visits to other gurus while there. It was in reference to this habit of visiting other spiritual personalities that Baba advised her on the 16th at 4:10 p.m. "You are one of my most intimate ones, one of the 5 trustees of my Universal Center, and you have been longing for my contact. So, as one of my most dear ones, in all honesty, I want to give you one piece of advice. Do not dig at many places. Even if it takes a long time to get water, you should dig at only one place. Eventually, water comes." Marvin, could you unmute and continue, please?
Sure. Do not get involved in groups. It will be a mess. I want you to realize by actual experience, I personally tell you to do one thing. You can attend to your external duties as you have been doing, but find some hours, 1, 2, or 3 hours a day, when you could, all alone, devote yourself to what I will tell you to do now. In silence and in seclusion, all alone in one room, with all your heart, cry out. Deep down in you, cry and say, Baba, let me see God who is in me. Baba, let me see God in me. Cry out with such longing that during these hours you want nothing else but to see God. And Consuelo, dear, you will see him. Will you carry this out? You will then see God. Do it honestly, as if your very life depended on it. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want to see God as he ought to be seen, do this, I tell you. You are so dear to me, and I will help you. But do it very honestly. Cry, cry, cry. God wants us to see him, longs for it more than we long for him. It is the truth. I know it. But he wants to be seen. How? With great longing and aspiration. Try it. You will have the longing if you try honestly. We must see him in this very body. So will you try? Consuelo said she would. On May 14, 1952, Toni Ruthbert had had a second interview with Baba, at which time Baba explained to her, I understand all. Even if you had not said anything, I know all. So take very seriously what I explain, especially for you. I will explain it to you very clearly. And if you grasp it thoroughly, you will never again be confused. Mind has a habit of getting exalted and then going down, sometimes full of faith, sometimes full of doubts. So, in spite of our trying to seek truth, one sometimes lands in a mess and feels so dry at heart. What you have to understand is that God and loving God are not child's play. It is like drowning in an ocean of fire. Jesus was never serious about anything except about God, whose incarnation he was. He was serious about himself and God, with whom he was one. Otherwise, he was so lighthearted. Jesus even got crucified for others with this lightness of heart. Why? Because he had no want at all. He did not want, he gave. So the only thing God wants is not ceremonies, not yogas, not prayers. He wants love, the love that makes you forget yourself in him. All isms are the same. Love and become God, not by practice of ceremonies, but by dying for God. Baba has no creed at all. Societies, groups mean nothing. Baba is above all these creeds, ceremonies, and isms. Everyone in India knows that I have no ism at all, and am not attached to any. I have reoriented Sufism, Vedanta, Buddhism, so that truth in them is kept alive. The marrow should be taken in, the bones thrown off. Do you know what Jesus told his disciples? Quote, leave everything and follow me. Now, if I were to tell you this, your mind would fluctuate. It will think, is it true? Is it like Jesus? Is Baba right or wrong? So, unless and until you are wholeheartedly prepared to follow someone who you think true, like Jesus, the best thing for you would be not to submit to anyone. Just go on following the inner voice, having absolutely nothing to do with anyone, including Baba. But can you surrender absolutely to Baba? Just ask yourself and be honest to the very core. Can you surrender wholeheartedly, as Narina, Elizabeth, and Ivy Deuce here have? Just find out for yourself. Not for one moment should you think of making your husband unhappy. That would not do. If you think by surrendering wholeheartedly to Baba, you will make him unhappy, then you should not do it. Everyone is Christ. What is new in it? Anyway, I advise you to make him happy, not to leave him for anything. And in your heart, if you love Baba, you will know how to love God. That much I can tell you. Love Baba in your heart. If possible, follow the new Sufism. If not, do not bother about it either. Let love me in your heart and make your husband happy, and God will see how you love him. Baba concluded, remember what I have told you now and do it. When Tony saw Baba for a third time on 16 May at 4:35 p.m., she told him, I think, as you well know, you will do extraordinary work in the United States. Baba replied, America now leads the material side of the universe and has such infinite possibilities that it can lead the world spiritually if awakened. Tony said, under the surface and unknown, there is great longing for spirituality. Baba responded, and what is needed for this awakening is love for whatever God one likes, in the form of Jesus crucified or another. God will do it. He can do it. And now the time is near, very near, when the spiritual upliftment has to take place. Yes, absolutely. It has to be and will be. So the terrible catastrophe which is overhanging the world can be avoided? Tony asked. It is reaching its climax, Baba replied. Then there will be a change. Will the climax be war, or can war be avoided? Baba answered, I know about it all, but be sure of one thing. America is destined to lead the world spiritually. Those who live God will be the prey, Tony opined. Truth never falls, and lovers of God will soon triumph, Baba declared. I am happy. I see that you are a genuine lover of God. Tony, in this country, unfortunately, the youth are not taught about spirituality, Tony said. A youth does not even get ethical education. Yes, Baba stated, but be sure these very youths who now know not of God, but know only to eat, drink, and be merry and do lustful actions, will soon get the shock of their lives and know that only loving God is real life. On Saturday, 17 May 1952, an open house darshan program was held in the barn from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. and again from 4 to 6 p.m. And the footnote says the barn, as it is called, was a former tobacco barn that had been bought by Elizabeth and converted into a meeting room for large groups or events. Almost 700 people gathered, many from the small town of Myrtle Beach and others from distant places. Elizabeth was sitting on Baba's right. Baba had instructed that each visitor enter individually, meet him, touch his hand, and pass on out of the barn. Adi Sr. was standing nearby reading the alphabet board with the assistance of Nilu and Meherji, while Sarosh and Don organized the visitors' arrival. At one point, Elizabeth asked, How can you help them when they pass so quickly? Baba answered, If they linger longer, the mind begins to work, and I want to touch the heart. Phyllis Frederick, who was standing at one of the entrances to the barn handing out a printed message of Baba's about his silence, miracles, etc., recalled, After meeting Baba, many were weeping, dazed, unaware of their surroundings. Almost 1,000 people had been invited, including a number from the local Black community. Those present noticed that whenever a Black visitor entered the barn, Baba always rose from his seat and went to greet them. One Black woman who met Baba for the first time on this occasion was Beryl Williams of New York. Beryl had first heard of Baba in November 1951 from Phyllis, who was a close friend. She invited Beryl to Carnegie Hall to hear Narina deliver a lecture on Baba titled Divine Love is the Solution. Beryl, who had always had an inclination toward spirituality, was attracted by Narina's talk. The audience had been informed that Baba was to come to the West in the spring, and if they wished to be notified, they should leave their name and address, which Beryl did. The following is Beryl Williams' description of her first meeting with Baba. Delia opened the door for me and said, Baba, this is Beryl. As I hesitated at the entrance, Baba rose from his chair and stood with outstretched open arms to me. The next thing I knew, I was weeping my heart out on that beloved shoulder at the joy of having found my home at last. Baba left no room for doubt as to where I belonged in his welcome. I received the unmistakable impression that it was Baba who had drawn me to him in his own way, particularly when in the course of the interview, he suddenly turned to Adi and spelled out on the board, It was worth it, while I happily nodded and babbled foolishly. After giving me some personal instructions of what he wanted me to do, Baba looked deep into my heart before enjoining me on the simple command, leave everything to me, leave it to me. So simple, but oh, how difficult for a willful nature. Yet I felt a great burden lifted from my heart, which until that moment I had been unaware of even carrying. I knew then what it was to be at peace with one's own self. Harold Justin Rudd, 37, of New Jersey, had heard of Baba from Narina just a few months before. He recalled his first meeting with Baba that day. I traveled from New Jersey by car all night long with my wife, Virginia, to Myrtle Beach. My wife knew nothing or little about beloved Baba. My meeting with Baba was momentous. I was ushered into the barn by Delia. As soon as my name was spoken, Baba immediately arose from his comfortable armchair and was waiting for me. I had plenty of preconceived and ignorant notions about a master and masters. My background was theosophy, and my belly was full of masters and the total wreck of my life in following that particular path. So I decided I would look right into the eyes of beloved Baba and find out for myself if Meher Baba was a master. As soon as I approached him, he flung his arms around me, and the first thing I knew, I was weeping like a child. Baba was most pleased. He spelled on the alphabet board, "Tell him he loves Baba very much." I was quite pleased by this. Then Baba added, "But also tell him that Baba loves him very much." This delighted me even more. Baba discussed certain personal matters with Harold for a few minutes, and his concluding remark was, "I will see what God has in store for you. When I call you, be ready to leave immediately." When Virginia, 36, entered, Baba also stood up, held her hand, and caressed her. But Virginia was unaware of this. Quote, "I went in and the whole universe disappeared," she said. "I became completely unconscious of the gross world, I think. I never saw Baba. I never saw anyone or anything else in the room. I was zapped out. I was stupefied, dazed. The only thing I was conscious of was a very faint golden atmosphere. It wasn't a light, it was a beautiful atmosphere. That's the only thing I can recall. But I was so happy, deliriously happy." One of Margaret Craft's ballet dancers, Barbara Mahan, also had the opportunity of meeting Baba that day, along with Ella Massi, Myrna Ballin, and Madeline Gavers. The following is Barbara Mahan's recollection. Baba sat in what I later came to think of as his usual place in the barn. He was in white, his hair down. He was smaller than I had imagined. He was smiling, gay. How did I feel? Mainly numb, dumb, and very shy. There seemed nothing to say. For my previous 2 years of thinking about Baba, I had long since decided that since he was God, and since God is in us all, there just was not anything to ask or say. I had long felt that Baba must actually know me, my innermost thoughts and feelings. Baba told us he knew we had made sacrifices to come, that he loved us and suffered for us. Yet, though this sounds serious, there was laughter in his eyes and such tenderness and love. Laura Delevingne, 63, of Detroit, was one of the few Sufis in America who had been personally initiated by Inayat Khan in 1926. She had met Narina in New York in 1948 and written to Baba. When she and her husband Lee met Baba in the barn, she recalled, "When I saw Baba standing there, it felt like I had finally reached the goal. He looked so beautiful, a beautiful, beautiful person. I went to him and he embraced me. I said, I've come to the end of everything because I felt that there was just nothing more. Baba responded, the end of everything is the beginning. And in a way it was for me, an end and a new beginning. Andrew Muir, 38, worked for the Space Agency in Washington, D.C. as a design draftsman, and his wife, Maud Anna Peggy Muir, 54, managed a hairstyling salon. Both had found out about Baba from Ivy Deuce in the early 40s and had become Sufi preceptors. Peggy had actually seen Baba's photograph in a newspaper in 1932 and had remarked to her mother, someday I'm going to meet this man. 17 May 1952 was that destined day. They came to the center dressed as if going to church. Andy was wearing a jacket and tie, and Peggy was beautifully outfitted. As they stood outside the barn waiting to meet Baba, Andy felt no apprehensions or nervousness. Peggy was called into the barn first. She had often remarked to Andy, if I thought that I have helped one soul come closer to God, I would be so happy. When Peggy went up to Baba, the first thing that Baba gestured was, you have brought many souls to me. There was nothing that Baba could have said that would have made me happier. There was nothing that would have made Peggy happier. Coming from him, this was the divine confirmation of her innermost longing. Baba's sweet words meant everything to her. Andy was called next. In his own words, I went through the door, and as I did, I immediately saw Baba sitting there. I did not see anyone else in the room. I was so overwhelmed with his beauty that I ran to him. I grabbed him in my arms. Peggy said later that she was afraid I was going to hurt him because my embrace was almost violent. As I held Baba very closely, our faces inches apart, I looked into his eyes and I felt such relief and joy. I could only describe my feelings, and it doesn't even approach it. As like when I was a small boy and I was lost, almost in my own neighborhood. I was very frightened because it was getting dark. I was frightened that that night. This was the sort of relief I felt in Baba's arms. It was as though not only will I come home, but I am home. This is my harbor. This is my refuge. Next page.
Who was that person, Marvin?
What's that, Ralph?
Who was that last person, my refuge?
Andy Muir.
That was still Andy.
Yeah.
Marvin, thank you. In this last paragraph, there were a couple sentences where you became inaudible. I don't know why. So I'll just repeat
Okay.
and continue and take a turn. As I held Baba very closely, our faces inches apart, I looked into his eyes and I felt such relief and joy. I can only describe my feelings, and it doesn't even approach it, as like when I was a small boy and I was lost, almost in my own neighborhood. I was very frightened because it was getting dark. I was frightened that I would not find my way home. I was overwhelmed with fear. As I walked, I noticed some streetcar tracks and remembered this was the way home. I stopped crying. I was so happy that I would be home in my own bed that night. This was the sort of relief I felt in Baba's arms. It was as though not only will I come home, but I am home. This is my harbor. This is my refuge. In that embrace, along with feeling such great relief, I looked into his eyes and I heard one of the Mandali say, "He loves Baba very much." Hearing that, I was made consciously aware that I loved Baba very much. My heart had told me so, but I did not really know it until I heard those words. Then I started to cry. I was so happy that I could not stop. I am going to get his sadra wet, I was thinking. Baba said, and Baba loves him very much. So if something happened that I never heard another sound again because of Baba's statement, I have heard enough. Since then, many times I have disobeyed Baba. Many times I have forgotten him. Many times I have done all the things that we should not do. But I have never lost that feeling of his love. The Muirs left the barn and drove back to Washington, D.C., wholly devoted to their Lord and Master. Storm clouds had been gathering all day. After the darshan program in the barn, Baba was driven to the guest house to see the women. As his foot touched the ground, a tremendous bolt of lightning struck the surface of Long Lake, and it started raining. Phyllis recalled, it was as if he had held off the storm until he was through with his work, then pressed the button to let the rains descend. Ivy and Charmian were at the guest house saying goodbye. Baba remarked to them, 1,000 years hence, people will be singing about this day in the barn, but you who have taken part in it can, of course, not savor its full significance. Narina was still unwell and had been unable to attend the program. That night, Adi Sr. wrote the Mandali in India. I am writing this letter in the middle of the night. Narina's health is not good, and Baba's plans, because of Narina's ill health, could not be put through as he wanted to do. So there has not been a lively and happy atmosphere around Baba ever since our arrival. I hope Narina recovers soon. And according to Baba's plans, she is able to take part in the interviews that will take place in New York from the middle to the end of July. End of the letter. The next day, 18 May, Phyllis and Adele were sent back to New York. Their first separation from Baba was as painful as their first meeting was joyous. Age observed. Phyllis noted, you feel like Adam and Eve leaving paradise. But at the Myrtle Beach bus station, as if to console her, since she was feeling sad, the jukebox began playing Baba's favorite song by Cole Porter, Begin the Beguine. The open day in the barn was to only last for one day, but because of a miscommunication, Margaret asked Baba to allow 4 of her dancers who were touring with the Metropolitan Opera Company to see him at 9 a.m. the following morning. They were flying to Myrtle Beach from an engagement in Minneapolis, and this was as soon as they could arrive. Baba agreed, saying, for 5 minutes only. But when Baba came to the Lagoon Cabin at 9 a.m. on Sunday, 18 May 1952, no dancers turned up. He sent for Margaret, and together they waited and waited and waited. Why did you ask me to see anyone after the 17th? Baba fumed. I am not in a mood for any interviews now. Where are they? Baba was very restless. He called others, repeating the same thing numerous times. He paced inside the lagoon cabin, asking, What do you think has happened to them? Do you think they met with an accident? Why haven't they arrived? What time were they to come? He sent someone to phone the airport, but there was no news. Baba went for his lunch and returned in the afternoon. Throughout the day, the discussion centered entirely on the 4 missing dancers. Kitty remembered. At times, Baba seemed so annoyed they were coming, then again deeply concerned as to what had happened. Just as Baba was about to leave in the evening, he told them to phone the airport again. The only information was that flights had been canceled and many planes were overdue because the weather was so bad. I am going to the house now, Baba stated. If they come, tell them I will see them at 7 in the morning for 5 minutes. Baba left the lagoon cabin, and just as he went out, the phone rang. It was the dancers calling from the airport in Myrtle Beach. They had to charter a private plane as the regular flights had all been canceled. Their flight through the storm, with barely enough gas to make it, had been a gut-wrenching, terrifying experience. But they were determined not to lose this chance of meeting the divine beloved. Without Baba's help, they would surely have perished. When Baba heard the news of their safe arrival, his face looked very loving, and turning to Ivy, stated, I was not planning to work tomorrow, but love enslaves me. As he made this remark, he patted his pocket where he had kept the one telegram the dancers had sent him along the way. Baba saw the 4 brave dancers the next morning. Zebra Nevins, Sura Gesben, Catherine Skipper Damon, and Charles Lauren Tex Hightower, first individually, then as a group. Ronald read Baba's alphabet board since Adi and Mayurji had already left for California. Delia was also present. At one point, Baba remarked, I love you more than you can ever love yourself. And he added, I love you more than you will ever know. Their encounter with Baba was an immense experience of love for the 4 dancers. When the 4 dancers came in together, Baba had them seated on the couch and strode up and down for a while, sometimes pausing as though to gaze outside the window. He kept his hands behind his back, his fingers in constant motion. They observed there was an intensity of energy about him. Baba then sat before them and dictated, I was with you in the plane yesterday. Now you must take me back with you. He embraced each lovingly, and they were deeply moved. They left immediately to catch the next plane. After they left, Baba called his close ones and stated, their plane was in great difficulty and they were in danger many times throughout the flight. Delia burst out weeping at Baba's saving grace. Age was also touched by the flow of love during Baba's visit to Myrtle Beach. The beloved drenched Mayor Center with his divine love, and every particle there was empowered to spread the timeless message of the Avatar's truth and beauty. Baba's presence sanctified its soil, and his footprints irradiated its atmosphere. They will serve as a guide to future seekers for ages to come, and those who bow to them will find their heart's true beloved. Meher Center is Baba's American wine shop, the doors of which he flung open for thirsty aspirants of the path. Pilgrims will meet to imbibe his wine there, and the center will inspire people to lead a life of drunkenness, the life that has no end. Elizabeth and Narina's love, service, and self-abnegation in Baba's cause are beacons to be followed by those who wish to work in his cause. Marvin, could you unmute and take another turn? Oh, Ralph.
I could read.
Oh,
I could
awesome.
read.
Yeah. Thank
Okay,
you,
go ahead,
Ralph.
Ralph.
It's raining so hard. I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm good for go. Yeah. Let me get. Let me see. Okay. Wow. Oh yeah. I didn't bring any reading. Well, maybe I can see. There we go. Yeah. On one occasion, Baba informed Elizabeth that the center was that the center was to be used for any of the following purposes: as a spiritual academy, a house for advanced souls, a house for advanced souls, an abode of saints, an asylum for the mentally troubled, as a solitary place for meditation, or as a resting place for the afflicted. Over the years, under Elizabeth's careful stewardship, the center became a retreat for those who loved Baba and knew of him. Meher Center is saturated with tears, age concluded, tears resulting from a shaking up of the heart by one glance from the goddess. Hidden there are Baba's joy, his profundity, his wild humor, beauty, and the song of his alphabet voice. These divine expressions will remain there, all those thirsting for the wine of love. Those who visit the Myrtle Beach Center will not leave disappointed. On Monday, 19th May 1952, as planned, Baba sent Duncan, Zilu, Mayor G, Ustaji, and Adi to drive across America to Elizabeth's Plymouth station wagon to Meher Mountain, California, to see that proper arrangements were made there before he and the women Mandali arrived. Adi Sr. did not want to go. He wished to drive one of the cars in Baba's group. Sarosh wanted to go with the men, but Baba insisted that Sarosh accompany the women's group. Even Duncan suggested that it might be better if Adi drove the women, but Baba did not change his mind. There's a footnote. One consolation for Sarosh was that for the first and only time he had the opportunity to do night watch duty near Baba that night. The day after the men left, Baba sent them this message through Don. Doctor, no, through Don. Or is he talking Don Stevens or Dr. Don? That would be Duncan has gone in the car, right? Okay.
I would guess it was Duncan.
Okay, but Duncan's gone in the car. Even Don suggested that it might be better if Heidi drove the women. But Baba did not change his mind. Okay. The day after the women, avoid all temptation, and most of all, love. Be honest and fair, and noble and just. Do not talk, but fall to. But of Baba, talk you must. Do not talk falsehood, just. I got stuff cropping up on my phone here. Can you close that footnote window, Funny Bunny?
Yeah, let me
Close
read the
that
footnote.
footnote window.
Let me read the footnote. The Gujarati word faltu means useless, good for nothing. In other words, useless talk or gossip.
Oh, right. Vote. Okay, we'll try it again. The day after the men left, Baba sent them this message through Don. Avoid all temptations, and most of all lust. Be honest and fair and noble and just. Do not talk faltu, but of Baba talk you must. For center night duty, find a boy, not one dry as dust. And do not bale the flour,
Boil.
boil the flour, taking too much crust. I do not doubt, but warn you in loving faith and trust. Dear Don, need a scroller. Dear Don, read this to the others. I want you all to feel, dear Don, read this to the others. I want you all to feel assured that it is not doubt which made me write this, but just that I was in the mood to send you this verse. And it is also to avoid unnecessary complications unconsciously made. Baba. And the man, America 1952, and a map showing the path of their travel up to Prague, Oklahoma. After staying at Mayor Center for a month, Baba and the women left in two cars at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, 20 May 1952. Baba's itinerary was to spend 9 days driving across America and reach Meher Mount in Ojai, California on the 29th. He was to meet Gabriel Pascal there on the 30th, Malcolm Schloss on the 1st of June, and go to Hollywood on the 2nd and 4th. Pascal was pulling two
Pudding.
was putting two of his homes in Hollywood at Baba's disposal so that Baba could meet people at his house. The group would then leave Meher Mount for San Francisco on the 6th. Stay in San Francisco for 3 days in a hotel arranged by Don Stevens and stay on their return journey to Myrtle Beach on 10th June. Okay, that's enough for me. My eyes are playing out. I don't have my glasses. Sorry, J. Bob.
Well, thanks a lot, Rolf. Yeah, go ahead, Marv.
Baba, Mara, Mani, and Meru rode in Elizabeth's large, dark, blue Nash, driven by her. Charmian had wanted to drive him, but Baba said no. In the other smaller car, a Rambler station wagon, driven by Sarosh, were Rano, Kitty, Goher, and Delia. Before leaving Myrtle Beach, Baba asked Elizabeth, "Do you have the insurance papers for the car?" Elizabeth replied that she did not, so Baba instructed her to stop on the way and collect them from her home, Yupon Dunes. Baba repeatedly warned Sarosh to follow Elizabeth's car closely, and that if he had failed to do so, he would never be forgiven. While Sarosh was with Baba in America, he received a telegram saying that he had been elected mayor of Ahmednagar. Soon this position would become useful to him. Goher kept a brief diary of their trip. Leaving Myrtle Beach at 2 p.m., the group arrived in Columbia, South Carolina, where they spent the first night at the Forest Motor Court. Footnote, the Forest Motor Court was located at 3041 Two Notch Road and is now called the Forest Oak Apartments. Baba did not eat any supper and did not sleep at all. The next morning, 21st May, they left for Murphy, North Carolina at 6:45 a.m. They passed through the Blue Ridge Mountains, and all were impressed with the beautiful natural scenery. Sarosh's car, due to its age and condition, could not always keep up, and at times lagged far behind. Sarosh missed Baba's car in Lawrence and then searched for Baba's car in Greenville. At one place, Baba had his car halted until Sarosh arrived and strongly rebuked him for his laxity. Afterward, Baba's mood changed and he forgave him. While passing through the Blue Ridge Mountains, they had a beautiful view of a place called Caesar's Head. Stopping in Brevard, North Carolina, Baba and the group ate hot dogs, ham sandwiches, and cakes. Baba appeared to be in a good mood. Arriving in the town of Murphy, they drove around for a while looking for a quiet motel and rested for the night at the Moreland Heights Motel at 510 Valley River Avenue. The motel had a kitchenette and they had a light supper with tea. That night, Baba slept well and at breakfast was in a good mood. They left for Memphis, Tennessee on the morning of 22 May, 52, and at 6:30 a.m. the weather was misty. Passing through Ducktown, they entered Tennessee where they stopped at Ocoee Lake. Bob declared the lake and its surrounding countryside to be among the most beautiful scenery he had ever seen, and he indicated that this old Cherokee Indian area had a spiritual atmosphere. While driving through the town of Cleveland and the city of Chattanooga, Sarosh lost sight of Baba's car again, and when they finally caught up, Baba was very upset and warned that he would never forgive Sarosh if it happened again. They toured Ruby Falls, a collection of waterfalls deep underground, and Rock City Gardens on Lookout Mountain, Tennessee, where Baba remarked, "This is our last sightseeing stop." They spent the night in Waynesboro, Tennessee, at the Sims Motel, which was located by a running brook at 1015 Savannah Highway. Baba had soup and veal and slept for 2 hours. The next morning, 23 May, they left at 5:30 a.m. They drove the entire day, passed through Memphis, and stopped in Searcy, Arkansas for lunch. But Baba did not like the omelet that was served. Driving through Conway, Atkins, and Clarksville, they reached Ozark, Arkansas, where they stayed at the Pond Creek Motor Lodge that night. Footnote: Pond Creek Motor Lodge was located on Rural Route 1, Old Highway 64 East. They had driven about 350 miles. It was a very quiet place with its own natural beauty. Again, there was a brook passing through the land. The owner had over 100 hens. Baba had only milk and bread in his room for supper and asked for the same again for breakfast. Baba did not sleep that night and complained he had pain in his throat and stomach. Saturday, 24 May 52, was a pleasant, misty morning. They had breakfast very early at 4:30 a.m. and started driving at 5:45. Baba again cautioned Sarosh to drive close behind them. That morning, Baba was in a serious mood. He seemed preoccupied and was not in his usual hurry to be off. On the way, passing through Fort Smith, they crossed the Arkansas River and entered Oklahoma. At one point, Baba had Elizabeth stop the car, and getting out, he paced up and down the highway for several minutes. Before proceeding, Baba again admonished Sarosh to be careful and attentive and to stay close. Again, Sarosh lost Baba's car and met up with it in Salisaw. There, Baba instructed Sarosh to drive ahead. However, at Gore, Sarosh lost Baba's car and caught up with it at Warner. Once they were on the road again, however, Baba ordered Elizabeth, drive fast, and kept telling her to go faster, faster. It had rained the night before and the road was slick. They drove on over the rolling hills of eastern Oklahoma. At 10:15 a.m., as they came over one hill, Elizabeth saw a car coming toward them on the wrong side of the road. She slowed down in the hope that as soon as the driver saw her, he would turn to avoid them. But he failed to stop and collided with their car at full speed. Just as the accident occurred, Elizabeth remembered Baba raising his left hand and pointing to the oncoming car as if he were somehow directing the whole affair. Baba was thrown clear out of the car and landed on his back in a muddy ditch on the side of the road. Blood flowed from his nose, which was broken. One arm and leg were fractured. Mara and Meru were also thrown from the car. Mara had a deep gash in her forehead, and Meru's wrists were fractured and sprained. Elizabeth was pinned behind the steering wheel, with both her arms fractured and 6 or 7 ribs broken. Mani, who had been dozing in the back seat, was the only one unhurt. According to a police report filed at the time for insurance purposes, the accident occurred in Lincoln County, Oklahoma, on Route 62, 600 feet from the East County Road, near the town of Meeker, Oklahoma, approximately 10 miles west of Prague. The driver of the other car, Anthony Joseph Palmieri, 24 at the time, described how the accident occurred. I was going east in my 52 Mercury sedan when I saw a truck stopped in front of me, so I slowed down. But when doing this, my brake froze on one side, which gave the car the tendency to turn left. In doing so, I made a U-turn across the highway and off the road. Then the Nash came at a pretty good speed and hit me in the rear. Palmieri drove this diagram to illustrate how the accident occurred. According to Elizabeth's account, our party was on a motor tour from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina to California. I was driving my Nash Statesman along the open road toward Oklahoma City, having passed Prague a few miles back. Prague. Suddenly, I saw a car coming at me at a very high speed toward Prague or towards me. It swerved from its right side of the road in front of my car for no reason that I could see. I put on my brakes with all force and gave the other car as much room as possible and kept my car as far to the right-hand side of the road as I could without going into the ditch. My car was hit very badly on the left front by the other car. I can only think that the other car was out of control, as I was later told that the car was owned by an XGI with an artificial leg. End of that section. It was true that Palmieri was a veteran of the Korean War who had been injured in a missile attack. His left leg had been amputated, and he was driving a special car with hand brakes and accelerator. This was the first day he had used the car. With him in the car were his wife, Billy, and her mother, Mrs. Jane Hanson, both of Oklahoma City. They were on their way to Arkansas to pick up Billy's son by a previous marriage, who spent the summers with his mother and grandmother in Oklahoma. The accident occurred directly in front of a small farm owned by a Czechoslovakian immigrant named Stanley Muka. The postman had just put the mail in his mailbox. The truck that Palmieri saw stopped when Muka heard the accident and rushed outside. He brought blankets to cover Mara and Baba. No one in Palmieri's car was injured. Mrs. Hanson had leapt out of her car. She went to Mara and wiped her face with a handkerchief. Elizabeth's car had gone off the road into Muka's driveway. It was a terrible sight, Muka later remembered. Mrs. Hanson also said there was blood everywhere. It was horrible. Meanwhile, a man taking his pregnant wife to the Prague clinic for a checkup drove past. Because the town had only one ambulance, he sent it back along with a hearse. Sarosh's car had not yet appeared on the scene. Due to the heat, Sarosh had stopped along the way to enjoy a cool drink. It was a stop he would regret for the rest of his life. When the car came upon the accident 15 or 20 minutes later, they were shocked by the sight. Rano, Goher, Delia, and Kitty jumped from the car and ran to Baba. Goher was dazed and began going back and forth between Mara and Baba frantically. Baba indicated to Rano by hand signs that his arm and leg had been injured. Delia unpacked her small pillow and placed it under Baba's head. The anguish of that moment is unforgettable, said Delia later. Baba's face with blood pouring from his head, his eyes just staring straight ahead, as if into unfathomable distances. He made no sound nor sigh, just lay there motionless. Elizabeth was in the car, doubled over the wheel. Her first question was, "Is he alive?" Baba was lying on the soft dirt, bathed in blood. He had foretold that the soil of America wanted his blood, and in his infinite mercy, he was spilling it there. It was as if a knife had impaled the heart of age, as it watched the living Christ bleeding helplessly on that Midwestern road. "Oh, America," it cried, "you thirsted for his blood. Now quench your thirst. But remember to remind future generations that along with his blood, he also brought and left there the divine treasure." Age listened and heard this silent message in reply from his beloved. "My blood is only shed for those who continue to remember it and who experience love for the beloved. My suffering will be their pain. which will always keep them with me. The blood is a sign of my love for the world. America is mine, and by suffering for it, I am giving it love, so that it may keep its head bowed to me. The ambulance and Hearst arrived, and Baba, Mara, and Elizabeth were rushed to the clinic. Goher and Rano rode with Baba and Elizabeth in the ambulance, while Mani and Meru accompanied Mara in the hearse. As the newly elected mayor of Ahmednagar, Sarosha's status now became useful. In America, a mayor is an esteemed government official, and thus immediate arrangements were made for this visiting dignitary, and the police cooperated fully. Footnote. Later, Baba told Sarosh, now you understand why I wanted you to stay behind me and not go with the boys, the Mandali. Adi would not have been as much use as you in this crisis. The small clinic in Prague was quite good, privately owned and run by Dr. Ned Burleson and his wife, Julia. Although Elizabeth was the first to be brought inside, the doctor quickly saw that Mara was the most seriously injured, and so began treating her. Here is Dr. Burleson's account. The ambulance brought the victims of the accident into the hospital at about 11 a.m. It was such a mess. It took me hours to pick the pieces of broken glass, earth, and grass out of their wounds before I could even begin to stitch them. It was very bloody. I did not expect Mara to live. She had suffered the worst skull fracture I had ever seen, like an eggshell dropped on the floor. I went to work on her immediately, trying to save her life. After a while, members of Baba's party began coming into the room, asking me to come and look at Baba. I tried to ignore them and kept working on Mara, but they became more insistent. Baba this and Baba that, they said. Dr. Irani also began urging me to come and see about Baba. Of course, I had no idea who Baba was, and barely heard her because of the concentration on what I was doing. I did not know what they were talking about, but finally decided to go and see what all the noise was about, and entered the adjoining room where Baba had been brought. But as soon as I came in the doorway, Baba started grinning at me and smiling, so I figured he cannot be too badly hurt, until I found out later the extent of his injuries. When I finally got around to attending to Baba, I was surprised to see an individual who was injured as badly as he was still smiling. I was also astounded to find that he did not speak a word or make any sound denoting discomfort. I assumed that he could not, but was informed by Dr. Irani that he did not speak because of a willful act. I knew we were going to have to give him a general anesthetic, and he mentions a certain one, to set
Pentothal.
pentothal, to set his fractures, and suspected that he would say something at that time, but he didn't. The most attractive quality of his personality that first day was the way he would look at me with those big brown eyes, as if he were reading my mind. Later, I determined that the most outstanding quality was that something which made it possible for him to receive such profound devotion and loyalty from so many fine and educated people. That quality cannot be forced. Such devotion can only be possible because he deserved it or earned it. Two bones of Baba's lower left leg, his left arm at the shoulder, and the septum of his nose were broken. His upper gums were injured and bleeding from the lower dentures he was wearing at the time of the accident. Don and Erich had persuaded him to have them made before his trip to the West, and after the accident, he almost never wore them again. Baba remained conscious throughout, giving instructions. For example, that it was all right for the doctor and male technicians to touch Mara. Baba was accommodated in Burleson's office. Gohar slept near him. Mira and Elizabeth were in a separate room, and Kitty and Ronald looked after them. Meru was in the waiting room.
Thanks, Marvin. Awesome. We'll start here next week on page 3096. Let me just stop the share and stop the recording.